Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pickdawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over the college basketball games for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily Bank Shot best bet, the play I love the most in college hoops each day, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday in college basketball. First up, we've got Coppin State and LaSalle. This one's 6:30 Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+. Now, Coppin State on the first day of the season was our very first Bank Shot best bet, plus the points over Maryland. We earned the cover in that one as Coppin State lost, but covered the number, getting 28.5 points. And I liked Coppin State on paper going into that game, going into the season. And I was actually impressed by Coppin State in that first game against Maryland. They found themselves down 20-6 at the beginning of the game. It looked like they could be in trouble, but they battled back, kept it at 15 at halftime. They were able to win the second half, the first 5 minutes or so. They cut the deficit down to 7 points. It was actually a competitive game. And then in the final 10 minutes, it was all Maryland. Coppin State ran at a gas. But I do think that Coppin State will be a competitive team in the MEAC this year. Not necessarily one of the better teams in the conference, but certainly a lot better than what we've seen in the last couple of years. And this could be a team we can find value on going forward. But in this next game, I don't necessarily love Coppin State's matchup or the price we're getting. And I think it's time to fade Coppin State in this spot. It's like I said, they did run out of gas in that second half. The offense did really struggled, only scoring, I think, at one point they had 7 minutes of game time where they had scored 2 points, and it was tough to watch for the Coppin State offense. A lot of turnovers, some missed shots, and I will say, in that game, there were a few low percentage shots that Coppin State took that they were able to make and take advantage of. Bank shots for three at the buzzer of a shot clock. So, 3-point plays that were just really tough plays to make. You're not going to be able to bank on those going forward. And against a LaSalle team that is not really being projected much, in terms of the preseason A-10 standings, but a team I think is loaded with, D1 transfer talent. A lot of different players from all over the country and different styles of basketball, but I think LaSalle on paper looks to be a pretty solid roster. You get the new head coach, obviously Fran Dunphy moving on, and Darius Nichols from Radford coming in. He brings in a couple of trustworthy players that played with him at Radford last year, so it's not a completely new team for Nichols. A few really key guys that he trusted with the Highlanders last year. And I thought Radford was a really solid team the last few seasons, especially last year they had won 20 games. They were a winning record in conference play, won a conference tournament game, a sneaky good offense, good three-point shooting team, top 100 in the country, good rebounding team on both sides, especially on the offensive side. So I think LaSalle is going to be able to score a lot of points in this game. And like I said, Coppin State, second game in 3 nights. They ran out of gas in the second half of last game. You could just tell that Maryland was, if that game extended for another 10, 15 minutes, Coppin State was really in trouble. But I think LaSalle is able to win this game comfortably. A 20-point victory for LaSalle. I'll lay the points with the Explorers. Next up, we've got Maryland Eastern Shore and Georgia. This one is going to be a 7 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on SEC Network Plus. Now, Georgia is a very young team, but a very talented team. They did a great job in the offseason recruiting-wise. I've often said that Mike White may not be my favorite coach in terms of the X's and O's, maybe just not my cup of tea, but I do think he's a really good recruiter. We saw that in Florida, and we're seeing it in Georgia, and he's got a very, very talented team. Even though it's a younger team, Georgia should still be a very competitive team in the SEC this year, and especially in these non-conference games against inferior opponents like we saw against Bellarmine in the season debut. It was a 104-59 blowout win for Georgia. This team's going to score a lot of points. They played a really fast pace in that first game. They were a fast-paced team offensively at times last year. Overall, a little bit slower than what we're used to seeing Mike White offenses, but I think that Georgia should be able to fill the net in this game. The question is, can Maryland Eastern Shore, who had an unbelievable performance in game 1 of the season, holding Georgia Tech to 56 points through 45 minutes a game. That game went to overtime, 56-52. Can Eastern Shore play outstanding defense again? I don't think so. I think it was a good defensive game from Eastern Shore, but they also benefited from Georgia Tech missing a lot of good looks. That Georgia Tech was 19% from 3, 47% from 2-point range, and just 50% from the charity stripe. Georgia Tech still had 12 offensive rebounds. Eastern Shore turned the ball over just under 20 times. So it was a great performance from Eastern Shore. You have to credit the Hawks for that game. But going forward, still not a great MEAC team, and this is just a complete mismatch compared to Georgia. The price says that. I mean, it's obviously a big number for Georgia to lay, but I think with the pace of play that they saw against Bellarmine, I think Georgia's going to be able to have enough possessions to win this game and cover the number in the end. So give me Georgia laying the points in this one. Next up, we've got Indiana and Alabama A&M. This one is going to be an 8 p.m. Eastern start time on the Big Ten Network. This is a very new-look Indiana team, a new head coach in Darian DeVries. Tucker DeVries playing for him this year, looking to bounce back from the season-ending injury for West Virginia last season. But, this is a Indiana team. It's going to be the question of, can they gel? Is the chemistry there for a team full of Division I experience and very talented players, but all different styles of basketball throughout Division I, and you've got some lethal weapons scoring wise, like DeVries, who had just 2 years removed from 22 points per game. The year before, 18.6 points per game, so great scorer. You've got some great defenders, guys like Tatum Connerway from Troy, one of the better defenders in the Sun Belt last season. He also scored 14 points per game last year. So this is an Indiana team that a lot of really good pieces. The question is, who gets the minutes? Who's going to be your starters? There is some uncertainty with Indiana, but for me, I think it's a good spot at home facing Alabama A&M, a team that won its first game of the season, but you look at the opponent, Blue Mountain, it's an NAIA team, so Weld's, a subdivision team, it's not even Division II, giving up 60 points in that game, only winning by 20, and honestly, 14 turnovers, giving up 12 offensive rebounds, not really what you want to see up against an NAIA team. And that was with Blue Mountain shooting 14% from three. They were 4 of 27 from three and still managed to score 60 points because they had 25 trips to the free throw line. So I think that Indiana is going to be able to score at will in this game and enough to cover this number, which is actually more reasonable than you would normally see a team like Indiana lay against a SWAC team. So I think this line's going to be on the move. I would get it early. I'm going to take Indiana. Next up, we've got USC Upstate and Fresno State. This one 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, last year was a tough season for USC Upstate in their first year with Marty Richter at head coach. They had only won 6 games and only 2 wins in conference play, outside the top 300 in both offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency. And, it was just a tough season overall. But going into this year, and especially in that first game of the year against Cal Baptist, I like what I saw from the Spartans. They were playing competitive basketball, found themselves in a hole at the beginning of the second half, but was able to climb back, make it a 4 or 5 point game with about 10 minutes to go. And, they ended up losing by 12, but scored 38 points in the paint, a lot of sustainable buckets. Their offense looked pretty sharp. Now, the defense is still a glaring issue, but you're up against a Fresno State team that I don't necessarily love offensively in this game. Now, they scored 88 points in their first game of the season, but that was against a subdivision opponent. And in that game, Fresno State had 15 turnovers offensively, more turnovers than the opponent did of Fresno Pacific. And that's a concern for me. You had a rough night from the perimeter, 27% shooting. I don't think this is a great shooting team in general, 60% from the free throw line. Add in those turnovers and the fact that that Fresno Pacific actually battled in the offensive glass. It was a 12-11 advantage for Fresno State, so basically nothing. All those are really concerning for me with this Fresno State offense. Not an offense that I want to lay this many points with against a team that is playing with a chip on its shoulder after last year's and the preseason projections, which are not pretty to USC Upstate. So I'm going to go with the Spartans here plus the points in this game. Next up, we've got Eastern Washington and Loyola Marymount. This one is 10:30 Eastern on ESPN+. Now, I do think that Loyola Marymount is better than its preseason projections in the WCC, but I also am really high on this Eastern Washington team this season and going forward. I think their program is heading in the right direction under Dan Monson. And you look at the first game of the season this year, a really competitive performance against UCLA. I mean, getting 25-plus points in that game. There was a 6-point final score, 80-74, the final, in favor of the Bruins, but a spot where Eastern Washington scored a ton of points in the paint, a lot of sustainable buckets down low, and that's a UCLA defense and, a team led by Mick Cronin that's really prides itself on its defense. Last year, they were ranked 14th in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency and only gave up about 44% of their points via 2-point field goals, one of the lowest percentages in college basketball, not just last year, the year prior. 46%. That was ranked 329th. So Eastern Washington, a lot of teams are not able to score on that front court of UCLA. They were able to do so pretty consistently in that game, scoring 74 points in the loss. And Loyola Marymount, they didn't play. They played a subdivision opponent. They earned a blowout win, but Eastern Washington's battle tested. They're an improved roster. They're catching still a lot of points in this game, and I think they're a live dog. I'm going to take the points here with Eastern Washington on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, the games I love the most, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com, and there is a link in the description. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.